Joining Linda from Buzzfeed, Lee Brown. Vox Media, Marty Moe. AOL, Jim Norton.
And once again, here's Mike Prue.
Let's just nip something in the bud right away. This isn't like on Tinder where you finally meet the person and they look nothing like their profile picture. This is not Lee Brown, but he is from Buzzfeed. It's Sam Figler. So we got the news that Lee had a family emergency. So this was during rehearsals last night. We didn't have a chance to switch everything out. So welcome to Sam. We're psyched to have you.
I was going to say, if this was on Tinder, I'm doing pretty good.
Hey, you are. Lots of swiping right. We're going to dive right into this, guys. Back in April, NBCU did a partnership with AOL, a content deal, and then just this last August, an incredible amount of money was invested in Buzzfeed and in Vox Media. Linda, why is NBCU dishing out dough to these companies?
Dishing out dough. I really think it's really all about what you've known in the last couple of years. We talk about NBCU as the intersection of content, data, and distribution. And we have this funny map we show at my office, and it has 4 cities that I think no one else shows this map, and it's Madison Avenue, Silicon Valley, Hollywood, and Philadelphia. So it's a unique one, but it really demonstrates quickly why we have great partnerships with all 3 of these companies. And we feel really strongly it's about obviously giving the consumer the content they want, but partnering with the right companies that are developing opportunities that, for example, I could talk about all of these companies, and it's bringing the right content together with the right distribution at scale. And then all of us have a very big interest and skill and capability in the data space. Right. So imagine when we bring all that together, invite our advertising partners in to make a real big effort in content marketing, then you're talking about what has been done rarely before, which is, whether you want to call it branded, native, at scale, but that's repeatable. And when you look at all of our capabilities, that's what we're all working collectively together to achieve.
The press says NBC is trying to chase a younger audience. To what degree is that a factor?
Chase the younger audience. I was reading a headline, it was funny, just about, Viacom reaching 18 to 34, 18 to 49. The reality is, when you look across the NBC Universal platforms, whether it's 18 to 34, 18 to 49, just because we have so much stuff, we kind of run the table on, because we have such a utility of demographic and scale. But I really think it's about the right content to keep the somewhat fickle, whether it's the millennial or even younger audiences from there, engaged and keep coming back. And then when you look at things we're doing with AOL, where we're sharing content, talent, whether it's on all of the AOL platforms, or it could be on the Today Show, or what we're doing with BuzzFeed, it could be on E! Yep. It could be, there's such a variety of outcomes, but all in an effort to make the best content there is and push it out to as many people as we possibly can.
I did a little bit permission-based stalking on you guys and pulled a couple quotes that you've said. The first one is from Lee, but I'm sure you can speak to it.
Lee, you look much better today. I just want to tell you.
You're looking great. You're looking great. We've doubled the size of our research team to help us quantify the impact that our opportunities have had. So you've now been in this partnership for, I guess, just a couple of months. From a research perspective, what are you finding in terms of how this is working for BuzzFeed?
Well, I think so far, I think it's a little early to tell. It has only been a couple of months. Linda and I were talking backstage. It's been kind of a high-class problem that we've had. Everybody from both companies has been so excited, about working with each other, that we've just been bombarding each other with, different ideas on how we can engage. And and it's going to take a little bit of time, for sure. I'm not going to steal anyone's thunder, but for sure, in the next couple of months, we're going to have some good announcements on the stuff that we're going to be doing.
And from BuzzFeed's perspective, you guys are seemingly this cool, young, hip company. You're really a new media company. To what degree are you worried that by partnering with NBC Universal, and no offense, a company that has its grounding from 1939, the very beginning of television, to what degree are you worried about alienating those younger people?
With stodgy old media?
You got it.
Yeah. We're not worried about that.
A little mean. A little mean.
Can't wait till he gets to me.
I think Linda couldn't have put it any better, so we are a content company, and we certainly are about pushing our content out to where our users engage and will enjoy it. And, the term strategic, I think, is a bit overplayed. But when we did the NBCU deal, I think it was very apt, right? There couldn't have been a more strategic partner for us than NBCU, given its breadth of assets and brands. So that's where the users are, right? And so, we've obviously focused on digital to date, but extending our brand and our content, to platforms like NBCU,
and I think you had to think about it also in terms of, kind of the why of it all, really as an attractive piece to the advertisers in the audience, is really about the scale of which you can enable the consumer an ease of discoverability, or to be able to get our two companies or any of our companies together behind one thing at a particular point in time. And it could go as long as 4 to 6 weeks, but our company has something, this huge promotional mechanism called Symphony, right? Yep. BuzzFeed has Swarm. Okay, so imagine that when the advertisers that we're talking to now in the early days of, if you're launching a new product or you're about to bring a new car to the marketplace and you have this giant megaphone of a promotional canvas of the NBC Universal networks or all the platforms that, whether it's BuzzFeed or Vox or AOL, and we're able to all distribute it out to that point, that is what I think in the prior talk that I was doing with Stacy is, that's the new form of a partnership today. Because where there's not one universal measurement, well, you were cutting me so I could curse. Who gives a shit? It's really about being able to prove an outcome. I'm going to get in so much trouble for that. That to prove an outcome that said, I sold more cookies. I moved more people into a showroom to test drive a car. And that's really at the crux of all these partnerships.
Let's move on to the next quote. So, Marty, you said technology these days is a central cultural force the way music was in the 1960s. Can you just say a little bit more about that?
Sure. Well, that quote was in the context of our vision for our website, The Verge, which was launched about 4 years ago. And the notion there was that much like Rolling Stone back in the 60s kind of captured music as the central driving cultural force, but was able to speak through the lens of music about any number of topics, cultural or political or otherwise. The Verge, through the lens of technology, can leverage the cultural impact of that phenomenon to speak very broadly about any number of topics. And so in some ways, when we launched and created it, we thought of The Verge as kind of the Rolling Stone of the era of technology. And so that was the basis for that website. It's also the basis for much of our company in that we think of technology as a central driving force for everything that we do at Vox Media. It's all about thinking like a platform. And as a company, we think of ourselves as a platform for building and scaling high-quality media brands. Full stop. That's kind of what we are, and that applies to the content that we do. It applies to the advertising that we create. It's all about quality at scale, which leads back to why our relationship with NBC Universal was so apt for us. NBC is nothing but a stalwart of great quality and building great scale around that. And so our view was that with two companies that have such such views, simpatico views around how to do things, the importance of quality, the importance of scale, there's going to have to be a lot of interesting things that we can do together.
Sure.
And so,
Look, I see the Recode people on CNBC all the time, so I would think that Vox Media is getting a ton of exposure as a result of that. What else is in it for Vox as a result of this deal?
well, I think what's in it for us is being at tables around different projects, around different themes, learning from each other. I think that this is going to be a really important thing, kind of on both sides, that we can be in the same business but from such different angles that it can't help but really make us both smarter.
And I'll tell you, partnerships with all of my friends up here, it's making us learn how to move a lot faster. Because, you can imagine, we've had shows in development at the broadcast network for years. These guys are teaching us how to come to market maybe a little sooner than we ever thought we'd be able to be ready. And obviously the combination of data expertise and the iterative nature that they're so comfortable with that sometimes I'm still like, are you sure? Are you sure? And I'm sure we talk about one of the first partnerships coming out of our AOL with the marketer that I won't steal your thunder, but really I think a good proof of concept and that there's demand and we have a good hunch that we're onto something.
Let's move on to Jim's quote. So Jim, you recently said we've come a long way from flashing banner ads. Have we?
I would say that if you are still focused on flashing banner ads, then you've gone nowhere. And our focus at AOL has been really the combination of both ad technology and premium content. We call it the barbell or culture and code. And when we think about our partnership with NBCU, that speaks, to the combination of both, really. It's thinking about premium content specifically around video. And as a content publisher with brands like Huffington Post and TechCrunch and Engadget and certainly AOL.com, the mandate amongst those edit teams to move beyond image and text and include video, what we'd call a video insertion rate, on every article, and using NBCU as this library of the highest quality, most relevant premium content around categories like news, entertainment, and lifestyle. So it becomes it elevates the premium nature of what we're showing to our users. It's a great distribution opportunity for NBC. And then conversely, we've got great brands that NBC can take advantage of. If you think about the TechCrunch Report or Huffington Post Live or AOL Build, our talent series, and finding ways in which we can bring those together. So yeah, I mean, we're so much further beyond, and we've retooled our sales organization that anything related to banner ads or really transactional digital media has moved programmatically.
There's no doubt that we've come a long way in video, and especially in online video. But from a display media landscape right now, if we've come so far, then why this? The IAB, we messed up in terms of everything that's going on with ad blocking and user behavior and the kinds of experiences that people want to have online. Why is this happening in 2015?
I think it's a big wake-up call to all of us that these trends in ad blocking are becoming so prevalent. I think that we, as an industry, we did go too far. We didn't check ourselves enough on ad experience, the overall ad ecosystem when it comes to the types of data that we gather, and really kind of respecting the customer. So I think from our perspective, this is a good wake-up call for the industry to focus on how do we make web advertising great again, and if it ever was great, but how do we make it like a medium like television or magazines or otherwise, where the ad experience can be as much a part of the valuable consumer experience as anything else on the page.
Sure. The IAB in their blog post, when they said we messed up, said that they put they put dollars and chasing revenue ahead of the consumer experience. Why isn't any company going to put revenue first? Linda, what's your perspective on that? How can you ever get to an ideal consumer experience if that means less and better ads?
Well, I think that
It's a false choice, by the way.
especially today, it would be a fool's errand or a really short-term strategy to put revenue first, because the consumer is so vocal. And you might be able to get the one hit in that show in that 1 minute of time, but they're not going to come back. So you have to respect that experience, and that's been going on for a long time in TV. Now, I think also in TV, you have these, 15-minute ad breaks, or you have some companies that are adding commercial time to make up for some ratings loss. And I think you'll see that, what I talk about a lot is the re-commercialization or the reinvention. How is premium content commercialized or monetized tomorrow as it is today? And I think that a lot of companies are talking about that, and a lot of advertisers are stepping up and saying, are talking about they're willing to pay a premium for that enhanced consumer experience or less commercials. So maybe it goes back to the opening where you're talking about Back to the Future, and not that you're talking about the Texaco movie night or sponsorship. I think that was NBC, that old stodgy company you were talking about. But I think if you think about that, when you have the right content and the right advertiser being the benefactor and offering the viewer or the online user this incredible experience, there's a great loyalty there. And there's a great halo effect that travels everywhere. If you'll use a good example, if you think about The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, okay? Jimmy Fallon and the reinvention of late night television transcends every platform. Okay, so whether you watch them every night because you don't want to wait till the next morning, whether you're going on Hulu, I think I saw Peter Naylor here somewhere, so shout out for Hulu. And then, or you're going on to YouTube and you want to see what he did. Those advertisers travel with Jimmy wherever he goes, and that's why we're very particular about how we partner that, and that's what we're really focused on, and I think that's just going to become the way of our world.
What specifically needs to happen to make online advertising welcoming today?
I think there's two things. First, from the user side, there really needs to be focus around ad experiences, right? If you think about, mobile advertising innovation is really poor. We're still, for online video advertising, we're relying on 15 and 30-second pre-roll. That we're trying to take what's working within television and translate that to digital. So I think there needs to be focus on actual ad experience innovation. The other thing too is I think we've got to make the transaction a heck of a lot easier too. It's still very, very kludgy to plan, buy, and manage online media. Understanding, television and broadcast, and I'm an old broadcast seller. There's 60 years a head start of perfecting that transaction. And I think, what you hear from marketers more so than anything, and perhaps what prompted Randall's comment from IAB is that, we've got to make things simpler. And at the end of the day, broadcast is really simple to transact on relative to digital. Now, there's reasons where, we could debate about, things like measurability around that. But that being said, look, it's really easy, and there's a lot of people that know how to do it. And that's not the case necessarily in digital. And I think that's where we've got, burden on the publishers and the digital media companies to improve on behalf of marketers and agencies, honestly.
Well, and I think it's a burden on everyone and all of the stakeholders in the advertising industry. We have 30 seconds left. Sam, I want to end with you with a headline that has been talked a lot about new media companies shifting their attention to television. And I saw a tweet from Rob asking the same thing. There's been a lot of rumors about Buzzfeed putting on television shows. Why would a new media company want to seemingly go backwards in time for television shows? Why? In 30 seconds.
I think one of your earlier panelists mentioned the revenue associated with the TV content. That would certainly be a big driver. But most importantly, again, that's where the users are, right? I mean,
It's
there's still.
all about scale.
Yeah.
And if
I
you look
agree.
at the numbers from Yahoo yesterday with the football game, by streaming standards, the number was high. By television standards, I would get a hard time from many of you in the room to sell that kind of CPM for that kind of delivery. So it really is all about the scale and whether, again, it's the screen in your living room, the screen on your lap, or the screen on your phone. That's what that kind of content is going to deliver, and that's why is at the crux or the foundation of this partnership.
And Linda, now you know why Stacy and I balance each other out pretty well. So with
And
that,
both of you are tough, so it's a problem.
we appreciate this. I was psyched about having this group of people on stage. I don't know that that's happened yet since these partnerships were made, so I want to thank
No.
you guys.
Thank you.
And let's move on.